Welcome back to Brandon Held. Life is crazy. I am so excited about today. I have someone on that I am so excited to talk to. She was on MILF Manor season 2, and I watched the whole season and she got screwed over on that show, but we're not going to talk about that. That's not why we're here. I am with the beautiful and amazing Lynette West. And I'm so excited about today, Lynette. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
I'm doing well as well. How could I be bad? I'm with you in a podcast. So there's no reason to be bad or have any bad feelings. But having said that,
Mhm.
we are going to get into some deep stuff today. We previously met before. Lynette and I have both been through childhood trauma. You know my story. You know what I've gone through if you've listened to my podcast. And Lynette has a story to tell. And I'm very excited to share her story with all of you. And hopefully you can learn from her story and take something away from her story. So, Lynette, let everybody know why you're here today.
Thank you, Brandon. Well, I'm here to sort of, I guess, shed some light on things that people don't like to talk about, that there's a lot of stigma around, there's a lot of shame around it. Childhood sexual abuse, it's a dirty, ugly thing, and it's real. And the more people I talk to, the more prevalent I realize it is. Unfortunately, I was the victim of this at a very early age by a family member, my maternal grandfather. But I also had the privilege of growing up in a very violent home. So I relate a lot to your story as well. My earliest childhood memories are traumatic and violent, and I don't have a lot of those memories. I think my brain sufficiently shut a lot of that down, but I'm really here just to bring some level of awareness that it's a real thing. It happens to real people, and I'm hoping that if someone out there is listening and perhaps they experienced some or all of these things, that it will give them the courage and provide a guiding light for them to cope, to deal, to not only survive it, but thrive and excel, and know that there is a life on the other side of it. We're more than what happened to us, and that there can be hope and happiness and joy again in your life. And what I've discovered is the more I held on to it and stuffed it down, the more of a burden it became. Once I began talking about it, it brought a freedom and a lightness to my step. And I just want to convey that and share that in hopes that it would motivate others to be able to find that kind of freedom and ultimately that kind of joy and happiness in life again.
Very well said. I mean, everything you said there is beautiful and perfect. Just from the recognizing what happened to you and how it had been suppressed for a long time, just like myself, the fact that you want to share it with others so they can see you can survive it and thrive afterwards. And I'm just so glad that you're doing this, really. I really am. So, what we know is, like me, you had this memory later in life. You recalled this repressed memory later in life. So why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about when that memory started coming back to you and what that opened up for you?
For sure. It's interesting because we call them memories, but I think a more accurate description is flashback. At least that's what my doctors call them. I had them in isolation. And when I say them, I'm talking maybe 8, 9, 10 flashbacks, memories throughout my life from the time I was a child, through my teenage years, through college, through adulthood. And they presented themselves in isolation with absolutely no context. And they always left me going, well, that was random. What was that? Like, it didn't make sense because it was like a contradiction. There were memories of me not being happy about my grandfather being around, but yet I recalled loving him and missing him when he died. It was confusing, and I never ever spoke about it. I never told anyone about it. I thought it was rather insignificant because in isolation and without any context, it had no meaning. It wasn't anything I needed or thought I should talk about. It didn't happen, or it didn't really come to fruition until I had battled drug abuse and drug addiction. I was in recovery. I relapsed many times, but this was the first time I got sober, and I had been sober for a couple of weeks. And I was in my bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, it was the first time in my life I ever looked at myself with an ounce of compassion or understanding or kindness. Before that, to say I hated myself is putting it mildly. I was torturous to myself. I was cruel to myself. Everything I said to myself was terrible. You're ugly. You're dumb. You're fat. You're unlovable. You're gross. You're disgusting. And that's how I thought about myself. I thought I was just trash. I felt like trash. And after I got sober, I was looking in the mirror and it was the first time I kind of looked and I went, oh, God, honey. And I exercised some compassion. And literally, that was the first time ever. I was almost 50 years old. And it's almost like my brain recognized, okay, okay, she can handle it now. She can deal with this. Like, we got her, the brain's like, it's a safe place now. I can release this because she's having compassion and understanding for herself. So when this comes out, she's going to have compassion for herself. She's not going to try to kill herself. Okay. I think that's really like the brain recognizing that the time was right. It was finally time. And what happened is I started having a PowerPoint slideshow in my brain of these flashbacks, one after the other in repetition. And it created a context for me. It created a story for me, one that I had not been aware of my entire life. Again, these were memories in isolation that made no sense. When I put them all together, it created a story, a context. And I don't have any really lurid, explicit memories. Like the most explicit memories I have of my grandfather is of him lying in bed with his pajama bottoms open. And I don't even remember what I saw. That's just all I remembered. And then I remembered the lamp that hung above the bed. This back in the 70s, they had those big psychedelic lamps that kind of hung out and had the power cord that was strung along the wall into the outlet.
Yeah.
And it had tassels around it, and it literally hung out over the bed. And I never knew why I remembered that lamp because I had such a shitty memory because I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood. But what I later learned was hyper focus. I would count the tassels around the lampshade, as a way to disassociate from what was happening to my body. So that memory came. And then there were several others, and just it was one after the other. And I just sat there for a moment, and literally the realization came that, oh my God, he molested me. I don't know if he raped me. He didn't beat me, I don't think. Surely somebody would have noticed that. But I don't know the extent to which I was abused. I just know that something very, very bad happened to me when I was very, very young. And once I realized, oh my God, this is what's happened, I had a physical release. I had a visceral response. I immediately began vomiting uncontrollably. I wasn't nauseous prior to that. Just all of a sudden, I started vomiting and uncontrollably, and I slipped and I fell. I'm in my bathroom. I bust my ass. My head hits the tile, and I'm literally lying in the middle of my bathroom floor in vomit, crying and screaming and the most animalistic sounds. Because at one point I went, oh my God, is that me? Like I could hear myself, and it was a feeling unlike anything I had ever felt before. It was incredibly overwhelming and it was very scary. And it took me probably a good 10 or 15 minutes to compose myself and get up and clean myself up. And again, I'm looking at myself in the mirror going, and then there was a moment immediately following all of that of relief because it's like, now I know why I do the things I do. Now I understand. Now it all makes sense. Now I know I'm not just crazy. I don't just have a broken brain. I'm not a lunatic. There's a reason why I do the crazy stuff I do. And it wasn't that I was looking for an excuse. I was looking for understanding because within that understanding comes compassion. And I sat there and thought of it and tried to assimilate it and accept it and figure out, okay, what do I do? And the first thing I did was call my addiction psychiatrist and say, you're not going to believe this shit. And when I told her, she went, honey, I already knew that. I was
Wow.
like she was not surprised at all.
And you were like, why didn't you tell me?
Right? And she's like, Lynette, it makes absolute sense. Like the reason that you've hated yourself your whole life, the reason that you've told me you felt like an alien on this planet, that you're uncomfortable in your own skin, that you never felt like you belonged here. I never felt worthy of the space I occupied. I always felt I had to earn any kind of love or affection through achievement. I never felt intrinsically valuable. I didn't feel like I was worth the oxygen I consumed or the carbon dioxide I expelled. And I lived my whole life that way. And she's like, that's not uncommon with people who are violated at a very critically developmental stage. And the more I started to learn about it, the more I was like, wow, God, this makes so much sense. So, sure, there's still some shame there. I'm not going to lie. But there is a relief and an empowerment in the knowledge of what really, really is causing some of the behaviors and some of the dysfunctions and some of the fallout in my life. And again, it's not like I'm looking for an excuse. I'm just looking for the why.
Yeah, I mean, you're just trying to understand even still yourself, right? Even
Absolutely.
as we're getting older and more mature, right? We still want to know why we have done some of the things we've done, behaved some of the ways we've behaved, right? That holds true for me too. And your
Mhm.
story is, while it's so very sad, it's also very identifiable with me because even though I didn't get molested or anything like that, and I'm so sorry that happened to you, I also remembered bits and pieces of why do I remember seeing my mom coming out of the bathroom naked and crying? Why do I remember this green couch? Why do I remember my father coming in being in it was just in pieces like that. And then when I got older as well, like you, it all came together and I had a picture, right? I had a movie that I could play back in my mind. And as I said before, I told my mom all this and she verified everything that I was saying was true. And when it happened when I was 2 years old. So everything you're talking about, I totally get it and I totally understand it. But we're here about you today and your journey and what you're going through. So if you don't mind, and you're free to say whatever you want to say or don't say, that's completely up to you. Um, tell some people some of your journey in life, your struggle with, I'm a good person, but then I do this bad behavior. Just give us some examples or some things that you know that really this affected why you behave that way.
hmm Yeah, I mean it's so layered, right? It's so complex. I mean, if it was simple, it would be easily fixed.
Right.
But it's literally like layers upon layers because, I had that wonderful start in life,
Yeah.
and then my parents divorced when I was younger. I guess they divorced in 79, so I was born in 73, so that puts me at what, 6? And the years leading up to that divorce, it was like War of the Roses in our home. It
Wow.
was incredibly violent. It was, yeah. This is how I sum it up. I know back in the 70s that Jergens lotion used to come in a glass bottle.
Wow.
And you know how I know this? Because
Not
my
for
mother,
good reasons.
yeah, yeah. It's a good reason I know this. My mother, during an altercation with my father, grabbed it and cold cocked him upside the head and broke his jaw with it.
Oh,
So that unfortunately was not atypical. They were incredibly violent. My father, you know, beat the shit out of my mother on the regular, and she was hospitalized on more than one occasion. Um, she hospitalized him too. Um, I mean, she certainly wasn't a shrieking violet, if you catch my drift, but she was obviously emotionally tortured as well, in
right.
addition to being
Yeah.
physically abused. And some days she gave as good as she got. But those are my memories are of them fighting and hearing things break in the bedroom and the doors locked and me and my brother, I'm the youngest of five, by the way. And my brother was 5.5 years older than me, and that's the next sibling up. And we were in the hallway or in the house playing, and we could tell there was a commotion in the bedroom. And I remember it very vividly because he and I were talking like, okay, what do we do? We got to get in. We got to stop this. We got to save mom. What are we going to do? And um, it was back in the 70s. So it had, those doors that had the locks, and you'd put the key up above the frame of the door. And
Yes.
we knew there was a key up there. And we were like, let's get the key. We'll get in. We'll stop this. And we were little. I mean, I couldn't have been more than 5 years old, maybe 6. I don't know. But he put me on his shoulders, and I was not tall enough to reach the key.
Wow.
And we kind of gave up. And what I remember the most about that is that utter feeling of helplessness, of futility, of fear, not only for myself, but for my mother and for my father, for that matter. And those are the kinds of things that stay with you and shape how you view the world. And it's almost like it creates a default setting. It creates an energy within yourself. Because to me, then that became normal. Because as a child, you don't know that other people don't do this.
Right.
Like you just think, well, this is how everybody lives. This is normal.
Right.
Then as an adult, what I found myself doing was gravitating towards people I found comfortable and familiar.
Yeah.
Not a good thing. It would have been a great thing if my childhood had been sunshine and roses, but it wasn't. And so I gravitated towards men that were abusive,
Yes.
physically, verbally, sexually. And because on some guttural level, on some primal level, that was what was familiar to me.
Yes.
So people will look at me and go, Your picker is broken. Like, what were you thinking messing around with a freaking hip hop rapper? Yeah, exactly. Good point. Good point. But give you a little context. Do you see now why I'm drawn to that? Because the stereotypes, and I'm not calling this individual out. I have no firsthand knowledge of anything that he's done like that, but there's the stereotype, right? And
Right.
so there's that energy that comes off. And that is what I gravitate to. That becomes my normal. And the way it affects your behavior, like you had said, like, how does that change things? Well, it sets in motion this cascading level of dysfunction and heartache and sadness and abuse that continues unhinged and unabated until you figure it out, until you reach some level of self-awareness and enlightenment. And unfortunately, mine had to come after I had this horrible drug addiction. And I, it sounds ironic, but I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I had the experience of making that first bad decision, of doing cocaine at a pool party at a house around the corner, because that set into motion everything that I needed to know about myself so that I could become who I'm really meant to be. A lot of years were spent being resentful over he changed who I was supposed to be. And then I realized, nope, he put me on the track that I'm supposed to be on. Everything happens for a reason.
That's right.
This is exactly who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be this incredibly flawed, emotional, insecure, hopefully relatable woman who is just trying to do the best she can with what she's got. I've been blessed beyond measure in my life. I have two beautiful, healthy, adorable children that are such a source of joy and pride for me. And I don't regret any of that, because if these things hadn't happened to me, then I wouldn't have selected the father. I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have these children,
Absolutely.
and I wouldn't have the opportunity and the compulsion. It's really a compulsion. Like, I feel so drawn towards, Lynette, you've got to speak your truth, as ugly as it is, as embarrassing and shameful as it is, as many family members that think it's a lie. You've got to get out there and give a voice to these other people that don't have one. I was given a unique opportunity to be on a reality show that has provided me a platform to be on wonderful shows like yours and have the opportunity to talk about these things and hopefully reach people that go, oh my God, I've been through that too. Oh my God, really? Well, she survived. It's okay. It's not as bad as you think,
Right.
right? There, we need to destigmatize it. We need to normalize the conversations around it because so many people are suffering. And it breaks my heart to think that people will continue to suffer in silence. I'm not going to suffer in silence anymore. I'll suffer out loud if I've got to. But I really feel a calling to give these things a voice, to shine some light on them, and hopefully it resonates and motivates others to move forward on their journey as well.
Yes. I mean, you just said so many great things there that I could sit here and talk to you for hours about all of this, honestly. Just to identify with relationships, for example, I have always been a protector, overprotective, right? Because I was that helpless child that watched his mother get beat. And it wasn't a two-way street. I just watched my mother get beat. I didn't get to see her give it back. Not that's good, but that always made me want to be a protector. And I'm very protective. And so what do? I pick women that are broken and need to be protected, right? I pick women that need someone to wrap their arms around them and make them feel safe and good. And that's why I've been divorced 3 times, because you can't fix other people. Everyone has to go through their own journey. And what's great also about what you said is the same thing. When I do tell my life story to people, people are like, "Oh my God, how can you even walk around with a smile on your face?" Right? Because there is another side. You get to the other side, and like you, I wouldn't change anything that happened, because I wouldn't be who I am today, right now, if I went a different path
Mhm.
or my life had been all roses or whatever the case may be. So I'm honestly happy for my struggle and my pain. And I know that sounds weird, but I completely identify with exactly what you're saying. So that's all that. What I wanted to know next was you found all this stuff out. You're working through it. So kind of let me know where you're at with where you're at in this healing process. Where do you see yourself right now? Because I don't feel like we're ever like completely healed, right? It's this thing we'll always live with and we'll always work through. And like, for example, I have been suicidal, right? I attempted suicide once. I put a gun in my mouth once, but I obviously never died. I'm still here. Um, and I feel like I'm at a point in life where I would never attempt it again. But also, when times get bad, it's this thing that creeps in the back of my mind. It's always there, it's never completely gone. So it's a fight for the rest of my life. And my biological father, who I never knew, he killed himself at 63. He put a gun to his head and killed himself. So I found that out through the grapevine. I heard from other people. So that's why I asked this question, because obviously you're not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm healed. Everything's perfect. Everything's great. So where do you see yourself on the journey right now?
Oh, I am very much a work in progress. I struggle. I struggle a lot. I mean, some days more than others. I very much relate to everything you were just saying about depression and suicide and suicidal ideations. I started with my depression in high school, adolescence. I think there's something about hormones that bring it out. I first attempted suicide when I guess I was 17. It was the fall of my senior year in high school. I used to get migraines, and so I was given this Midrin medication. And in the hopelessness and the darkness that I was in, and my lack of knowledge or research, I was like, well, just going to take this whole bottle of Midrin. That's going to do it. And I downed about, it was one of a big bottle, probably 30 pills, I don't know, 25 pills. I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning and I remember thinking, fuck,
Yeah.
I was so sad and I was
Yeah.
so upset when I woke up. Um, and then what did I do? I got dressed and I went to school and I acted like nothing had fucking happened.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's on the list, right, of options. It wasn't until I was in my 20s, I was talking to a mentor of mine, and I was when I was diagnosed with bipolar, in fact. It was a very depressive, then manic episode. I was kind of rapid cycling between the two and very erratic behavior, and she knew something was wrong. And I looked at her and she's like, Lynette, are you going to hurt yourself? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I've thought about it. I mean, doesn't everybody? She
Yeah.
was like, no.
I thought the
And
same thing.
I was like,
Doesn't
huh?
everybody, right?
Like, is it your list
It's
of
normal.
options?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, I could move, I could sell my house, I could get back with my ex, I could just blow my brains out. I
Right.
mean, didn't everybody like put that on the list of options? Like it blew my mind that she looked at her and she said, Lynette, I've never contemplated hurting myself or killing myself. And it blew my fucking mind.
Mhm.
And it gives me chills to this day because at the time I was just like, fuck, I'm really messed up. Like there's something really wrong with me. And fortunately enough, I got a diagnosis at the time of bipolar 2. I'm not bipolar 1. I've not had a psychotic break. I've come close, but I've not. And bipolar 2 being the hypomania versus a full-blown manic episode. That's the distinction between bipolar 1 and 2. So frankly, if you wanted to pick one, you'd want to be bipolar 2.
You got the good one.
Well, I got lucky. I got lucky. But depression and anxiety were something that plagued me. And as a teenager, I didn't have a word for it. I just knew I wasn't right. I went to college. I started at UNC Chapel Hill in the fall of 91. And I think it was my second semester, my sophomore year. I was partying hard. I was coping by numbing myself with drugs and alcohol. And I started that by the time I was 14, really. But by the time I was in college, it was full blown. I was quite a party girl. But I had missed a class that I really had needed to attend, and the professor had called me out, which was kind of unusual because the Carolina classes are really big. Like, you don't go to class, nobody notices, nobody gives a shit.
Right.
So I could skate through most of my classes because I never went. But this particular professor called me to her office and I sat down. I just started bawling. I just started crying spontaneously. She's like, dude, I hadn't even said anything yet. And she looked at me and she's like, honey, she's like, you're depressed. And I went, what? Like I'd heard of it,
Yeah.
but I didn't know that it applied to me. Now, mind you, I'm probably 19, 20 at this point, and I tried to kill myself a few years ago, but I didn't recognize that I was depressed.
Yeah.
I was ignorant because no one sits you down and tells you these things. You know, nobody in my family ever taught, well, nobody knew that I had taken all those pills. I'm sure my mom noticed at some point I was out, but no one talked about this stuff. This was, this was embarrassing. This is unsavory. This is not something you talk about. You don't admit these things. And that was the first time that I had realized, okay, I'm depressed. Okay, so what do I do about this? And for many years, I continued to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. And how I survived, I'm not really sure. I'm glad that I did. But I didn't become suicidal to the extent that you were talking about, because when you said the taste of metal in your mouth, I know exactly what that is, and I know what it feels like when it clinks against your teeth. And I had set my death date. It was after my divorce in 2015. And I was in such excruciating pain that I literally felt like I was drowning. I felt like I was dying. Like doing the most basic of things, like blinking, required an insurmountable amount of effort. I was giving up. There was no hope. There was a darkness. There was there was just a sadness. There was a pain, and it felt like I was carrying the weight of the world. And so I had set my death date. I'd gotten all organized. I'd printed my passwords. I'd checked the life insurance policy to make sure, okay, I've had it more than 2 years. It'll cover suicide. I don't want to leave my children broke. Um, and then that day happened. That day came, and I took my daughter to school, and I remember again feeling relief and happiness because I'm like, I got a way out. It's gonna stop soon. Like it was the first ray of hope that I had had in months, that I was like, yes. And then I dress rehearsed it, by the way. I'm not trying to give people ideas, but this is how out of my mind I was. I dress rehearsed in the days leading up to it because I didn't want there to be any unknowns. I didn't want anything to derail me. I didn't want the taste of the gun in my mouth to suddenly wake me up and go, oh shit, that tastes like metal. What am I doing? I wanted to make sure all my T's were crossed and all my I's were dotted. And as I sat in the shower naked, with the phone in one hand and the gun in the other, I had the image of my children. And I'm going to try not to cry.
That'll do it. That'll do it. Those kids, my three sons, same thing for me. Yes.
I
They don't know what a source of strength they are for us. Like they really don't know how much they mean to us and how much they make us push just that much harder. You're going to make me cry, and I'm a man. Don't do that.
sorry. But yeah, I there was just a voice in my head. I'm not schizophrenic, but there was a voice in my head that said, they need you still.
Yes,
Even in your broken state. A broken Lynette is better than no Lynette.
that's right.
They need their mother, and I did not want to leave them in this evil world unprotected. And, I got myself together, put on my clothes, and went to the office and went to work. And a guy that I always took smoke breaks with, because I smoked since I was 14. I'm a product of North Carolina. What can I say? Um, he came to my desk for our morning smoke break, and I'm working and I'm acting like everything's normal. And he looked at me and he's like, "Are you okay?" And just him saying that, I looked at him and I just said, "No, I'm not okay. I need help." And it was the first time in my life I'd ever admitted that I needed help. That ultra independence, that's a byproduct of trauma too. And um he was like, come on, let's go outside. And long story short, called my psychiatrist. He and I went, met with her, and she's like, honey, you've got two choices. You can do this voluntarily, where you can go home and pack a bag and I'll meet you at the ER, or we can do this involuntary and we'll cuff you and throw you in the back of a cop car.
Yeah.
And the whole, criminalization of mental health, that's a whole nother issue for a
Yeah.
whole other day.
Yeah.
And obviously, I chose to voluntarily commit myself, and I went inpatient for 10 days, and it allowed me time to get medicated, to recalibrate, to regain my perspective. Um, that's the closest I've come. That's not the only time I've contemplated, planned, or had suicidal ideations. That's something that creeps in more times than I really even want to admit.
Yeah, same. And that's why I brought it up that we're never just fully healed, right? I mean, we will all, like an alcoholic, every time they see a drink, they're always going to struggle with that alcoholism. Same thing for us. When we get in a bad place, it is normal for us to think about ending it all. It just is. And
Mhm.
I, like you, didn't understand, like when other people told me, I've never considered killing myself. I was like, what? How did you not do that? And also, you brought up something that I've never, ever said on any of my podcasts or anything. And that is the suicidal ideation thing. I have probably written farewell notes,
Mhm.
not notes, letters on maybe a half a dozen occasions, we'll say. And almost all of those occasions, just sitting there and writing the farewell letters gave me, it would make me bawl and cry and feel bad about where I'm at in my life and what I'm going to do to my kids when I pull it off. And, I'm no longer here and what they're going to have to live with. And going through that process stopped me from
Mhm.
fully going through with the attempted suicide almost every time.
Mhm.
And so it it was almost like a way of going through it without actually going through it. and
Mhm.
and so and so that's great what you brought up there with, all the passwords, and you had planned that all out, because I had done that multiple times and I just didn't follow through. And what I love about you, I want to say this openly on air. I know I've already said it to you, but if
Mhm.
but if people can't tell, I love
Mhm.
how genuine, sincere, and real you are. Like, this is not a stunt to, make people know more who you are or anything like that. Like, this is the real you and it's authentic. And I really respect that and appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
No,
Can I
thank you.
blow your mind real quick?
Yes, go for it.
Talk about how you write your final words.
Yes. Wow. Right there, you have it. Yes.
That was from Tuesday of last week.
Oh, shit.
Shit.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
It is what it is, right? I'm
Yeah.
still here.
Yes.
Again, again, what people I think need to know is, and I haven't verified this independently, I've just been told this. 70% of children who have a parent that commits suicide will commit suicide themselves.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. That's powerful.
I can't leave that legacy for
No.
my children and my children's children. I am breaking generational curses. I refuse to create them. And when you were talking about the exercise of going through that, I mean, it's some catharsis. It's fucked up that
Yes.
me, writing here like, okay, make sure that you do this and you don't put the animals in the animal shelter because I don't want them put down, and and I'm apologizing and I'm trying to explain myself, and it just comes back full circle though, and then again you're left with the images of your children or the
Yes.
people that you love, the
Right.
people that you care about, and you don't want to do that to them
Absolutely. Exactly.
because
Absolutely.
it would absolutely just it will change who they are supposed to be. And and I've had people change who I'm supposed to be, right? I don't want to be responsible for changing who my children are supposed to be because they are wonderful creatures. They are incredible, intelligent, insightful, compassionate, understanding, tolerant. I mean, they have me for a mom, for God's sakes. I mean, they must be those things, right? They still talk to me.
Yes.
They still live with me. Um, but yeah, God, Brandon, I relate so much to what you say, and is it weird that it's giving me some solace just knowing that I'm not the only one that does that?
It's not weird at all. As a matter of fact, you just brought up a great point that I've honestly never thought about. And I genuinely want to thank you.
Hmm.
I have been here fighting since a teenager to break generational curses too.
Mm.
And why would I work so hard to give my kids a different life that I didn't have, just to throw it all away and screw it up by being selfish and taking my own life and ruining everything that I built, everything that I've worked so hard for. Such a great point, Lynette. Such a great point. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for bringing
You're
that up.
welcome.
And
You're
and
welcome.
the and the people that understand us are going to understand what we're saying and what we're going through, and hopefully take some solace in some of the things we've said and we've gone through and we've shared. And we're doing this at the risk of the people that don't understand us chastising
Okay.
us or
I don't
saying,
get it.
yeah, they don't get it. They're going to think we're crazy.
Mhm.
Even if you feel that way, why would you go on a show and talk about that, right? Why would you make that for me? It's almost like the whole premise of my show.
Mhm.
So, um, they're not going to get it, and that's fine. I don't care about those people if they don't want to understand our plight and what we've gone through and are going through. Those aren't the reasons I'm doing this and you're doing this. We're doing this to help the people that get it. They identify, they understand, and they need to know they're not doing it alone.
They are not alone. They are
No,
not alone.
no.
And you're not crazy. What it is your brain is tricking you into believing these things. It becomes your reality because your brain creates your perception, which creates your reality. But in that moment, it is so fucking real. It is so overwhelming. One of the tricks I've got, I want to share with you, and I heard this from someone else. I can't take credit for it. I can't remember where I heard it from. But they likened depression to imagine when you're drunk. Do you like you're shit-faced drunk, right? Do you freak out and think, oh my God, I'm going to be drunk forever? No, you know it's going to pass. You know you're going to sober up. The suicidal ideations is like your brain is drunk. It is
Yes,
temporary. You will come back around. This too shall pass.
yes,
But it's you lose, but that is lost in the moment. But
yes.
I try to come back to like I want that tattooed on my arm. This too shall pass because nothing is permanent. Your death is, but the way you're feeling and the way you're behaving is temporary. Sure, it can do a lot of damage and create some lasting impacts, but it's again, the permanent solution to, a temporary problem. But when I start thinking about my depression, like in my suicidal ideations, in the context of, oh God, it's kind of like being drunk. Like I just got to ride this shit out. I just got to ride this shit out. I just can't give up. I'm not going to give up. The light is gone temporarily. The light will come back. And to be able to restore some semblance of hope is what staves off the suicide. It staves it, it keeps it away. Do you know what I'm saying? And it
Oh,
allows you to
definitely.
get to the other side.
Yes.
And that's why I want to talk about it because I was just in it last week.
Yeah.
I mean, I still struggle. I will struggle the rest of my life. But one thing I'm not going to do is give up. Like I'm committed to myself and to my children and to my family and my friends that I am not ever going to give up the fight.
That's right. You're going to be a grandma someday. You're
Whoa,
gonna, yeah, I know the word itself, maybe not so great, but the grandkids will be, right? You'll love those little
it'll be
babies.
wonderful. I'm so
Yes.
excited.
Lynette,
Yes.
sincerely, I mean, we've talked off air before we did the podcast together and now together.
Mhm.
I sincerely hope that you and I can maintain some level of friendship, even beyond this, some level of, sharing our things that we're going through together. Because I genuinely think you're a great person. I genuinely mean that. Um, and
Thank
so, uh, as we're reaching the end here, and what I want to do is a couple things. I want to give you uh, like a last summarization of a takeaway of what you want people to take away from everything you've said today.
I think there are a couple key takeaways. One thing is, you know what? You don't know what people are going through. Be kind, give them the benefit of the doubt
Yes,
until they give you a reason not to.
yes,
Another thing is remembering this too shall pass, the good and the bad. I often tell my kids, like, quit having the expectation that life is going to be fucking easy. It's not. Life is a series of suffering punctuated by moments of joy and happiness. So when you have those moments of contentment and peace and joy, relish it, live
yes,
in it, take
yes,
in those moments. Now, that's not to be so fatalistic, right? About like life really sucks. It doesn't. Life is a wondrous privilege. It's a great opportunity to evolve yourself, to help others, to really understand, the bigger picture here. Because it's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about this podcast. It's not about MILF Manor. What it is, it's about being on this planet to help other people. And in my opinion, that's how you're going to be judged come the end of times. Is what did you do to take care of and help other people? Because bitch, it ain't about you.
no,
And that's kind of the attitude I'm taking. I mean, I'm, making a spectacle of myself by being on here and talking about these dramatic things, but I'm doing that with the sole intention of someone hearing it and someone being inspired to continue their fight. That's why I'm doing this.
perfect. Well said. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why I'm here. You know, if we just say one person, we've done something. And
Absolutely.
and I love everything you said. I like to always say life is what you make it, right? It's
Mm.
miserable if you make it that way. It's great if
It's
you
a
make it
choice.
that way. So
It's a
that's
choice.
what it is, right? So all right. Last thing, let everyone know how they can reach you on your socials.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I got a very creative handle. It's Lannette, Lannette.West. So feel free to reach out, DM. Obviously I will post this and share it with my community there. And I look forward to hearing from people.
Awesome. Lynette, it has been just more than a pleasure. And I'm so thankful for you to coming on my podcast and sharing your story with the listeners. And
Mhm.
I really hope that you get to do much more of this and you get to continue to spread your message and you get to continue to help people as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, you're stuck. You've got a new friend, Brandon, whether you like it or not.
Oh, I
I got
like
your
it.
phone number now.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. We did exchange numbers. That's okay. That's great. I'm very happy about that. All right. So, go follow Lynette on her Instagram. I will put it in the bottom of this podcast so you can get to it and you know how to reach her and find her. Also, I'm asking you to please follow me on my Instagram, BH_life_is_crazy. It's not smooth, but it's understandable because that's the name of the podcast. And finally, for those of you that think you're getting good quality information from this podcast, please go to my website, brandonheld.com, click on podcasts and subscribe. Just subscribe to the podcast. It's totally voluntary and you can give as little as $3 a month to whatever you choose. And that just helps me try to keep this podcast going because this isn't free, people. I have to pay for this.
Nothing in life is free.
Nothing in life is free. And that's okay. I love doing it. I enjoy doing it. But if I can just get enough support to just keep it going and make it easier on me, that would be great. This is Brandon Held. Life is crazy. Talk to you next time.